Hey everybody, Mega Ruler 31 from FSI DFS. I'm back here. If you are looking for the early slate today on Wednesday, 5/26, just pause this video. Check out our channel. I previously recorded one for that 4-game slate to help you out there. But in this one, we are going to cover the 9-game night slate for Wednesday, May 26th. Weather concerns. I live out in the East Coast in northeastern Pennsylvania, and I know that we have some thunderstorm watches later tonight. Some bad weather coming as warm and cold fronts tangle in our area. So that also affects New York, Washington, and eventually Boston too. So the New York Yankees and the Toronto Blue Jays, looks like there might be a chance of rain early before the game, but it slows down later. The Mets, the same thing, might have caused a little bit of a delay there also. And Washington, it seems like it's not as big of a threat. It seems like the rain will be earlier there and not as bad later on if it comes. And again, these are probably pop-up thunderstorms. It doesn't look like it's going to be a washout in any of these areas. And then Boston has the same thing, but later in the game. So it looks like they probably get that game in, maybe some sprinkles or a passing shower through the later innings, but it should be good. So again, just keep an eye on the weather, both New York games in Washington and the Red Sox. And other than that, let's go into our usual format. We'll do pitchers and stacks. We'll go through all the games, and then I'll give you some roster construction. So starting up top, there's 2 stud pitchers tonight. You have Tyler Glasso taking on the Kansas City Royals, and you have Trevor Bauer taking on the Houston Astros. There is only a $300 difference between the two of them. I really like Glasso as my SP1 tonight. I know Kansas City doesn't have a ton of strikeouts in their lineup, but Glasso has a 36% strikeout rate on the season, something around there. So I think that he can get more patient hitters to chase his stuff because he's just so good with what he has. It's in Tampa Bay, which is a pitcher's ballpark. I really like that. Bauer, I don't hate playing, but just really the Astros are patient. They walk a lot. They don't strike out a lot. So Bauer is pretty much matchup proof. I think he'll have a pretty good game there. So I don't mind playing him. Can you play both of them? I think definitely there is a way. It's not like one is 11 or 12K pitcher. They're both just a shade over 10. So we'll talk about that in line of construction. I think definitely the most chalky SP2 tonight, and again, you're going to have to watch the weather on this one, is going to be Marquez. Colorado is outside of Coors. They are up against the Mets, who are missing 5 or 6 guys from their open day lineup. They are just full of AAA players on this team as they are very injured and trying to get healthy. Over the last 10 games, yes, they did sweep the Braves, and yes, they've had some games where they've scored 4 and one with 6 runs, but their average is 2.7 runs per game. They are favored in this one. I think Stroman is a decent pitcher up against this Rockies lineup, who's not great outside of Coors, and even in Coors this year has struggled at times too. So not just necessarily saying that there's win equity for Marquez, but I think at 6.7K, it is just an amazing price for him, who's a good pitcher. And against a soft lineup, I think definitely he's going to be very, very high owned. If you're looking for somebody off the chalk, or the weather does affect that game and you're afraid to play them, or the game gets canceled, I think you look right in the middle. Mike Minor against Tampa Bay. I know, you'd be playing both pitchers in the same game if you go Glasso Minor, but Tampa Bay, their power comes from their lefties, and Mike Minor is very good against lefties. And the righties in this lineup, there aren't as many of them usually. I mean, they can mix and match. I think that he's definitely could go out there and have a very solid game against them at 8-3. He's a good SP2. But I think dropping down a little bit more to Paddock. I know Paddock's had some struggles. He's 7-7. He gets the Milwaukee Brewers. I know Yelich is back, but he's been hurt in and out. I know they can throw a bunch of lefties at you, but they do strike out a lot too. So, and I think this San Diego offense against the pitcher will put up some runs. So there's definitely win equity there. So Paddock at 7-7. I think if people don't go to Marquez or that game gets canceled, I think he'd be the second highest ownership for an SP2. And I think Minor is another good choice there. Really don't like anybody else on this slate. Cueto maybe against the Diamondbacks as an SP2 comes in at 7-5. I don't think there's a lot of strikeout equity there. I think he just gets through the game. I think when we get to bats, the Giants offense is in a great spot there. So there's win equity. So I think, if he's a pivot, if some of the other plans fall through, but some of these other guys, I just are in bad situation. I'm just not touching them. The other one that's really intriguing me, and McKinley 412 reached out to me last night on this because he lives in the Buffalo area and he's familiar with the farm team for the Toronto Blue Jays, is Mana, Manoah. He is one of the top prospects for the Toronto Blue Jays, and he has some electric stuff. He has some lots of strikeouts in AAA and some good pitches. There are some pitches that he struggles with. I guess he's starting against the Yankees in Yankee Stadium, so it's not the greatest ballpark, but it's not like he's at Coors or anything, or in their home ballpark in Tampa Bay where it's a lot smaller. The Yankees are banged up. Like, I don't think LeMahieu is going to be in the lineup. They're missing Stanton. So then there's definitely some Ks in this lineup also. So who knows? At 4.8, I'm not saying it's a cash play, but in GPPs, if you're trying to get some bats in, if you want to pair him with one of the stud pitchers up top, at 4.8, if he goes 4 innings or so and gets a bunch of Ks, maybe he gives up a couple home runs, that's fine. I think he's definitely the lowest price pitcher that I would consider tonight. Okay, so bats, I think people are going to see this guy making his first start against the Yankees, and I think that they will be the most popular stack. I like them. I don't exactly love them. I think I would rather go to the Braves and Red Sox game. You have Drew Smyly, who has struggled. He's a lefty against a lot of right-handed batters. I love the right-handed batters in Boston tonight. I think they're going to be my favorite stack. Kiki leading off there. JD Martinez smashes lefties. Xander Bogart. And then I think I would even consider Vasquez as catcher, paying up a little bit. I usually like to pay down, but he's one that I'd put in the stack. But I don't mind like a lower stack here too, or a wraparound one. If we go like Renfroe, Danny Santana has been good. Chavez might get a start being a righty there. Dahlback is really cheap at 2.8, batting 9th usually. I know he strikes out a ton, and he was really good in spring training and hitting a lot of homers there, but hasn't so much now. But I think if you go to like Dahlback with a cheap stack, wrap around Hernandez, Skip Verdugo with the lefty and then go JD Bogarts, like that's a pretty nice stack there. Braves on the other side, I know they were in some good situations recently, but there's somebody to always go back to. Pivetta gives up hard contact. Freeman, Albies, Riley's been doing good too. Azuna got hurt yesterday, so he's probably out of the lineup. So you maybe pick up like Encerarte, who's a lefty. Maybe he moves up in the lineup. He's 2-2. He's not great, but he gets the split advantage. So, maybe he can earn you some points. And if he gets like 5-6 points at 2-2 and opens up some other things in your lineup, then that's always a great thing too. The other game I'd like to target is this Cincinnati and Nationals game. Again, we have to worry about the weather here a little bit possibly. So just check on that. But I don't think bats are going to be too much of a concern. Joe Ross gives up a lot of runs to lefties, so definitely like Winker Naquin here, but he's been equal opportunity. He's been bad against righties also, so just taking the top 4 up here as far as Winker, Castellanos, Naquin, Barnhart at catcher, like him also. So there's a stack, and I'm okay with the Washington Nationals against Hoffman too. Hoffman was not a good pitcher in Colorado, and he struggles from both sides of the plate also. So that puts everybody in play from Turner. Soto's probably a really good play here. Very expensive at 6-1. But the rest of the stack is relatively cheap. If you just start with Soto and then take like Bell, Schwarber, lefty, on righty matchup. Love that there. Castro, Harrison, and even Alex Avila I like for catcher at 3.5. There's really no bargain basement 2K catchers on the slate that I've found that are in the potential lineup, but Avila is a really good price here at 3.6, is it, with the lefty on righty matchup. But I think one of the most popular stacks, or maybe not, because the way this is set up is it's a kind of a weird slate because you have let's see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 of the games start between 7:05 and 7:10. Then you have 2 more at 7:40. And then you have this San Francisco and Diamondback game, the last game, 2 hours later. So people might play those early games because they could be able to see everything that goes on before they go to bed, especially if they're on the East Coast. But I really love this Giants team against the Diamondbacks here. With the batters, you have Yastrzemski is a little expensive at 5.9, but Buster Posey's having a great season. Merrill Kelly gives up hard contact both sides of the plate. I think the roof's going to be open. It's usually hot temperatures out there in Arizona. The ball flies out. Giants don't have like a 5 total, but 4.4 is decent. Belt, Longoria, Crawford's having silently a very solid season. Tauchman, if he moves up higher in the lineup, is not as cheap as he used to be, or you can do a wraparound stack there. So a lot of options there. Okay, so quickly through the games. Like we said, Toronto and the Yankees. Toronto has a rookie pitcher, 4.8, very intriguing against the Yankees. He does have he's a hard thrower. He can get some strikeouts, did that in minor leagues, didn't give up too many runs. This is a professional team in kind of a hitter's park, so I can see stacking the Yankees. Herman, he's too expensive. I would not take him against this Jays lineup. I wouldn't really take the Jays pieces against the Yankees unless you're stacking the full game. Cincinnati and Washington, hate both of the pitchers, love both of the sides for bats, and I think you can take either side of the plate for them for stacking purposes. Cleveland and Detroit, really haven't talked about this yet. Some places have McKenzie pitching and other people have it as a bullpen game. I think Major League Baseball has that as the starting pitcher. Let me just check that quick. No, they have McKenzie also, but DK has it as a bullpen game. So whatever it is, I still like some cheap pieces from Detroit. They don't show a bunch of power. It seems like they'll hit a home run every so often, but it's more like speed and like hits if they do put things together. So no problem playing to Detroit if you need some cheap bats to put in there. But I do like Cleveland against Urena here, especially just the top of the order. I probably would just play maybe like a 3 or 4 man stack. Hernandez, Rosario. I don't like the righty on righty matchup, so I catch him. That's a Rosario. Eddie Rosario seems super cheap at 3.5. But Jose Ramirez, I think he's a great play at third base here. Switch hitter. Hernandez had a home run yesterday. Even though it's righty on righty, I'd play him, and then maybe throw in like Harold Ramirez or Naylor there. So I don't think I'm going full stack there, but maybe 3 to 4 players. Just talked about the Braves and Red Sox. Don't like either pitcher on in these matchups. It has a 10.5 total. Watch the weather there, but I think they'll be okay. I think if anything happens, it's later in the game. But Braves like the lineup. Just remember Osuna's out, so it might give another opportunity for a cheap outfielder there. And I love the righties in the Red Sox. Don't be afraid to go down in the lineup. And if Chavez is in too, he's one to consider. Royals and Tampa Bay, like both pitchers in this one. Minor is a cheap SP2 against a Tampa Bay team that the power comes from the left-hand side. Minor's great against neutralizing lefties, and definitely Tampa Bay has some strikeouts in this lineup. Glasnow's top pitcher on the slate, in my opinion. The Royals only have a 2.78 total. That's all you pretty much need to know. Mets and Rockies, watch the weather here. Stroman's he's an okay pitcher if you just want a solid SP2 and not an elite, or SP1 and not an elite one. I'm fine against him against the Rockies. If you want to save like $1,000 and put it towards bats and be a little bit different. I definitely can see that. Again, watch the weather. And Marquez, he's probably going to be the chalkiest SP2 at 6-7 against this Mets team that's really banged up. Really don't like the bats on either side. The total here is super low at 6.5. Dodgers and Astros, Bauer against Garcia. Bauer, I think he's the 1A for the top pitcher. Astros don't strike out much. They're very patient hitters, but I think, there's definitely opportunities. Bauer, he's a good player. Garcia has been okay. 9K is a little too expensive. Would never take him against this Dodger team, even though they're a little bit banged up. You could take one-offs from bats on either side here, but I'd rather go to all the other situations out here, Boston, Atlanta, the Yankees. If you're paying up for bats, I'm not going here. This other game, the next game here, like San Diego, I'd rather have some of the bats here against Hauser or whoever Milwaukee throws out there. I think even though they're still a little banged up, I don't know if Machado will be back or not, but Tatis is up to 6.5. That's crazy. I don't think I'll be playing him at shortstop. I think there's many other options there at that position, so usually a fade. But in a one-off GPP or in a GPP, if I'm stacking the Padres, I'm fine throwing him in there. Paddock, I think, makes a case for an SP2. If you don't want to go with mine or need a little bit of savings, I think he'll be the second chalkiest, especially if something happens and Marquez can't go. Wouldn't touch the Milwaukee pitcher at all. Milwaukee left-handed bats are maybe in a YOLO GPP intriguing, but I don't think that. I definitely there's opportunity against Paddock, so I think that's something that you could consider, but I don't think they're a priority by any means. In the final game, we have Cueto and Merrill Kelly. Definitely like all these Giants bats. I think you can use Cueto possibly if you need an SP2 in that range. You want to be a little different. Kelly, I would never touch. And I think definitely, like I said, love the San Francisco bats. I think people won't play this game unless it's a later slate or something like that. But some of these left-handed Arizona bats could definitely be in play too, especially if you look at the top of the order. You are so loaded up there with Marte, Smith, and Escobar, two of those being switch hitters, Peralta. Then even like you have thrown Rojas and Reddick if you want to like a sneaky another YOLO stack too. I think I like them a little bit better than the Milwaukee one, but there's potential there. Okay, so let's look at 3 quick lineup constructions. And okay, so the first thing is let's see if we can put Bauer and Glasnow in the same lineup, and you definitely can. If you put them in there, and I would then stack San Francisco with them. I think you'd have to skip Yastrzemski. I think he's too expensive. You'd have to go like super, super low at like 2 or 3 of the other spots, like completely punting. But I would go Posey, Belts day to day. I think he'll be in the lineup. Longoria, Crawford, and Dickerson. So the way the projected lineup is, I'm taking 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So then that leaves you second base, outfield, and what other position? Oh, 2 outfield. So there's a whole string of really cheap under 2.5 outfielders today. They're not great options. Might only get you 4 or 5 points, but if this giant stack goes off and it hits and they put up like a 10 spot on Arizona and your 2 stud pitchers hit, then if you get zeros in a couple of those spots, you'll be fine. You should score enough points, especially in cash. So so balance it out or play Kiki at second base at 4-2, and that still gives you anywhere. Let's see here. That gives you for your last 2 outfielders about 2-4-5. Like I said, there's a bunch of guys that. Okay, you probably want some names. Let's see here. Let me pull it up. Give me a second. So I look at DK here. Okay, so Gardner 2-3, he might be hitting second. Enciarte, lefty against Pivetta, he might get in there with Ozuna out. Stevenson on Washington, I know hits down in the order, he's 2-2. Mazara, Detroit against whatever pitcher Cleveland decides to throw out there, I'm okay with that. Lee. If you're not playing Marquez, even if you are playing, well, you wouldn't be playing Marquez in this situation anyways. He's minimum price if he starts an outfield. So definitely some options there to look at. Okay, so that's the construction if you're going with both stud pitchers up top. Like I said, probably the construction that I am going to be looking at is Glasnow and Marquez. In that one, I'm stacking Boston. I am definitely locking into my lineup Kiki, Xander, JD, and probably Renfro. I want to see what the rest of the lineup is before I decide who else I want. I'm okay playing up for their catcher there, but I think I might just throw Dahlbeck in at first base. And then that gives me so many options, especially if I move Kiki to outfield. I can throw in a couple like Tampa Bay guys there and get a good catcher. I know I said I recommended Minor, but I'm okay with the couple righty guys there. Some Detroit guys at second and third. There's some cheap options that you can throw in there, and then wherever you throw in there, it's going to determine who your catcher is. Or you can flex Kiki back to second base if you find a third base outfield combination that you like. It gives you a lot of options. And I think that's where I'm going to go with my build. It's the Red Sox, those guys that I just named off, and then figuring out who the fifth guy of the stack is going to be. The other stack that I think is pretty intriguing that I like, and for this one, I might need to go down to Bauer as my SP one, but Bauer Marquez, then I really want to take like the three guys from Cleveland. So probably I'll start with Hernandez, Ramirez, and Rosario, and then I can throw in a Yankee stack of Judge, Torres, or I've got a couple options at shortstop there. I can go Torres or Urshela, depending on how much I have. There's only a $400 difference there. Throw in Voit at first base, and then figure out a cheap outfielder. You could use Sanchez as catcher if you want. He's a little bit away from the stack. If you find a mid-range catcher and then go, I don't know if I'd necessarily. I mean, there are some Yankees outfielders if you want to throw in like Clint Frazier there and see the wraparound, or if they throw somebody else out there that's really cheap. You'll just have to see what happens when the lineup comes out. Again, watch the weather on there, but I think my other construction would be to drop down to Bauer to get a little bit more to make it work, but you don't necessarily, if you can get Glasnow in there and not play Sanchez at catcher and find like a nice mid-range guy there. Like I said, Vila at 3.6 is has a splits advantage. He works really well. Then you get a decent low-priced outfielder to round out your stack there. You even pair like Avila and Stevenson bat like right next to each other in the order potentially, and so you have the little correlation there. That's it. So hopefully that helps. Thanks for watching. As always, please give us a like, recommend us, subscribe to us. We're here to try to help you guys build better lineups and be successful in a very high variant sport. So we love your comments. I love when you reach out to us on Twitter, or if you join FSI and in our Discord and our family, and enjoy like so many of the other free things that we offer there. Check out the rest of our videos, and we just most of all thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.